Welcome back to Move 365. I am Mark and I am going to talk to you in this video about stretching your hips. Hips are a nice open ball and socket joint. They should have plenty of flexibility. It's the flexibility in our hips that really takes a lot of the pressure for movement out of our lower back. So it's important that we can make the most of the hip flexibility that we've got. And let's be clear, not everybody can be equally flexible with their hips. The shape of the ball and socket joint does matter. If you've got a very shallow ball and socket joint, then you're going to have more movement of the ball in the socket. That's your Novak Djokovic hip. If you have got a very deep hip socket, then there is less range of movement available to your hips. That's your Andy Murray hip. So we're going to stretch with, we'll start with stretching your quads. Simple stretch. It's good to have something to hold on to if you need it. You're going to take the leg up behind you, and the hip joint itself is the fulcrum around which you are going to, or the hinge around which you are going to move. So that's the center of your movement. The arc of the movement is the hip joint itself. So I'm just drawing the knee back behind my hip, and I can feel that stretching through the front of my thigh. I can put more pressure, bringing my heel to my buttock as long as my knee can handle that, and that can increase the stretch. Or I can simply stretch a little further back, translating my knee back behind the hip. As the hip extends, I can feel that pulling up towards the groin. What I want to avoid is leaning back into my lower back. I don't want to increase the curvature, the hollow curvature of my lower back. I just want to draw the knee back behind the hip. Hold each of these stretches for a comfortable period of time. Research says that if you really want to lengthen the muscle, you've got to be there for more than 60 seconds and do it regularly to change probably the length of the fascia, not just the muscle itself. Shorter stretches will have a temporary effect, but because of the elasticity of muscle tissue, it'll probably spring back to where it was. So if you really want to lengthen your muscles, you've got to spend time stretching them out. Stretching the hamstrings. I'm going to do it on the left-hand side here. Hope you can see my foot on the floor. I'm going to pull the toes back towards my knee, and I'm going to sit into that left hip. I don't really mind where you place your hands on the leg that you're stretching or on the supporting leg, but the idea is to sit down such that you're lengthening the hamstring on the side that is out in front of you, and again, you're going to hold that for a period of 60 seconds or more, and once done, obviously you just switch to the other side. Personally, I don't really like hamstring stretches where you're putting your foot up on stuff unless you've got super flexibility through the hip, and you can really achieve quite a high level of flexion without compromising the position of your lower back. At some point though, you're pretty much guaranteed to have to flex with your lower back, and that can place a lot of strain on the lumbar spine, particularly the discs. So I prefer this floor-based method. A nice active stretch for rotation of your disc, which will include a little bit, your hips rather, which will include a little bit of balance work, is to stand on one leg, and it's called an aeroplane. You're going to take the arms out to the side, like so, and you're going to rotate your shoulders and your hips at the same time. To the end of the range of movement. Oop, lost my balance. End of the range of movement, and then we're going to go the other way, turning the hip into internal rotation, like so. So from the front, a little bit more room from the front. I'm trying to keep my chest and my hips in line, so we're going to turn together. Bumping the furniture here, and again losing my balance. And coming back to the middle. And then getting tired on this leg. And then going the other way. You get the idea. I'll do it on this side. So internally rotating. Trying to keep my shoulder girdle and my pelvic girdle in line. So go in both directions. So it's both mobilizing and strengthening for your hips, that one. To stretch the deep hip flexors, the psoas muscles, these go from your diaphragm onto the lumbar vertebra, attaches to all the discs, and then comes through the front of the groin to your hip. You want to take the side that you're going to stretch back. I like to keep the ball of the foot on the ground but not the heel, so it's not a calf stretch. And because I've sent this hip into extension, I can already feel that begin to pull through the groin, but to feel it a little bit more, I can tuck the pelvis under a little bit and bring my body weight forwards to get some stretch in there. Then I want to reach up, the arm on the same side, up as high as possible, and then lean slightly away from the side that I'm stretching. And each of these movements just increases that stretch on the psoas muscle, the hip flexor muscle. And then I've got a choice. I can either rotate toward the open side. If I feel that that's working a nice stretch in there, then that's good. Or I can close the rotation a little bit, and I can rotate rather away from the side that I'm stretching. Keep just slightly sort of playing with the position, just looking for where you feel the maximum stretch. One other way to exaggerate that stretch is to turn the foot out. If you just slightly turn the foot out, again, you can feel that deepen the pull very much at this end of the muscle, at the hip end of the muscle. It's a complicated muscle. It's a long muscle. It sort of, the fibers of the muscle twist and torque along the length of it in different directions. And so you've got to be patient with it and just try and feel your way. But again, holding it for 60 seconds or more. Obviously you'll want to keep breathing, but it's really important with this one because the muscle actually attaches into your diaphragm. Some of the fibers at the top of the muscle invest into your diaphragm. You can do it from your knee. If you find that easier, you would kneel down, and some people find it easier. Then as you bring your body weight forwards, the knee or the hip rather is already sort of being drawn into extension. Again, you can do the same thing. You can slightly sort of tuck the tailbone under just for a little bit more initial stretch, and then exactly the same with everything else, reaching up, reaching away, and then either turning out or in to your tolerance. Stretching the piriformis muscle in behind the hip, or the external rotators, and to a certain extent also the glute max. You can do what I call a pigeon stretch, and there's various forms of this. Essentially you're going to put your foot into a sort of figure 4 position, like so, and then you're going to sit back, like so, and you have to sit the hips back. It's no good just bending the knee. If I bend the standing knee and just sort of drift forwards, I've got no stretch here at all. I have to sit back, just like a squat, single leg squat. Now I can feel it pulling across here. Okay. I can take my other leg, either arm onto the leg, and I can externally rotate a little bit more, get a little bit more stretch across here. And then of course switch and do the same on the other side. It can be done lying on your back into this position and bringing the knees towards your chest. Personally, again, I don't like it because it puts more pressure on the discs in your lower back. You can do it on the floor or on a sofa. You would just sort of sit into this kind of position, and I can feel that same figure 4 position stretching across the back of the buttock, the glute. Let me see if I can show you on here. I would just be in that kind of position. Yeah, so this is similar to the pigeon stretch that you can do on the floor. You can transfer it to the floor into that sort of position, and you know, yoga practitioners will come all the way to the floor and they'll reach out in front of themselves to get a bigger stretch along the interconnected chains of muscle and connective tissue. Stretching the adductors on the inner thigh, very simple. Into that kind of position. Just feel that drawing through the inner thigh, both ways. You can almost do this, you know, along with your psoas stretch, your hip flexor stretch. Feels quite nice just to get in there and release. So those will give you a few ideas about how to get into your hip joints, stretch them out. All stretching is mildly uncomfortable, so you've got to expect there to be some discomfort, but it should feel like what you'd expect from a stretching muscle. If you get more discomfort than that, then seek help, seek advice from somebody who should know their onions, your physical therapist, doctor, fitness instructor, chiropractor, osteopath, physio, whoever it may be. But try and enjoy it. Any questions, pop the comments down below. Please give me a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and remember, life is better when you're moving.